Good morning. Good morning. My name is Matt Jasmine, hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Clinton Otwell is the clerk for this meeting. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterwards through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet. So if you would like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the address listed on the hearing notice. This public hearing is being held to consider 3 items. Hearing order number 208201 to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal pruning of one street tree adjacent to 1929 Taraval Street. The fine levied for illegal pruning is $6,800. Hearing order number 208202 to consider an appeal from a property owner for the fine issued for illegal pruning of one street tree at 2347 26th Avenue. The fine levied for this is $2,302. And finally, hearing order number 208203 to consider an appeal from a property owner for the fine issued for the illegal removal of one significant tree on private property within 10 feet of the public right-of-way at 199 Valencia Street. The fine for this illegal removal is $10,000. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for each hearing item, listen to your testimony, and help our Director of Public Works make determinations. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I'll be forwarding my findings from the hearing and make recommendations to the Director. The Director will make all final determinations. When the Director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them. The hearing will proceed as follows for the 3 items. I'll ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case. Then I will follow with the property owner, appellant or applicant to speak. Then any member of the public or witness who would like to speak. We'll go back to the department in case the department would like to address any comments. And finally, back to the property owner or appellant if there are any additional rebuttals. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers. When you hear the first bell, it will mean that the speaker has 30 seconds left to speak. If you are a party to any of the cases today, I will call on you to speak. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let us know. If you're a member of the public who would like to speak, wait for us to call for public comment, then use the Zoom raise your hand feature. If you're on a computer to get in the queue to speak. And if you're joining by phone, dial *9 to join the queue. When it is your turn to speak, we'll call you. You may need to dial *6 to unmute yourself. Comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or the applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of this hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I'll ask. After all comments are completed, I'll close the item. Before we consider the hearing items, the hearing is open for public comment. Members of the public may address the hearing officer on matters that are within the department's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. Are there any public comments at this time? If there are no comments, we'll close the public comment item. Now we'll begin the hearing with the first item on the agenda, order 208201. May I have Brian Ong, the Public Works representative, present this order?
Good morning. My name is Brian Ong. I'm with San Francisco Urban Forestry. And this is the administrative hearing for June 21st, 2023. Can you see my screen? Is it just the the Public Works hearing logo and the administrative hearing.
Yes.
Let's see if I can get full screen. I think this will do. So yeah, I'm Brian Ong with San Francisco Public Works Urban Forestry. Um, Before I start going into all the details of the cases, I'm going to just go through a few pages that we have, kind of just going over our tree ordinance and SF tree. Um, so first off, a tree ordinance establishes authorization and standards for addressing a wide range of issues regarding trees. San Francisco's urban forestry ordinance is codified under Article 16 of the Public Works Code. Um, The Public Works Code Article 16 is the urban forestry ordinance. Under Section 808 is the protection of trees and landscape material. Injury to or destruction of trees are prohibited. It shall be unlawful for any person to intentionally, maliciously, or through gross negligence injure or destroy a street tree, any tree on city property, a significant tree, or a landmark tree. And then these are a few items that were updated February of 2022. In addition to penalties set forth in subsections A and B, the director may require any person who removes or destroys a tree in violation of the provisions of this Article 16 to pay for each tree removed or destroyed a sum of $10,000 or the tree's replacement value, whichever is greater. The director may require any person who has injured a tree in the violation of the provisions of Article 16 to pay a sum of the money equal to the diminishment of the tree's value as set forth in the current edition of the Guide for Plant Appraisal, the Council of Tree and Landscape Appraisers. Um, Also, where an abutting property owner removed a street tree or trees without obtaining a permit, the department shall require that the property owner plant a replacement street tree or trees with a total diameter 6 inches above ground that is equal to or greater than the total distance of the street tree or trees that were removed without a permit. Okay, so Article 16, Section 806 is for removal. Basically, if the department grants a tree removal permit, it shall require that a street tree or trees of equivalent replacement value to the one removed be planted in the place of the removed tree or impose an admin fee unless written findings detailing the basis for waiving or modifying this requirement. Um, Article 16, Section 808, protection of trees. Basically, tree protection. I don't think we have anything for this case, but for any construction project, you are required to have tree protection installed within the drip line of the tree. And then this is Article 16, Section 806, 802, the definitions, injure or injury. Basically, any act which harms or damages a tree, not limited to impact, cutting, carving, painting, transplanting, or knocking over, and includes, but is not limited to the following. Basically, any wires or nails, anything like that, can't be attached to the tree. Pruning in and which of itself will kill or cause a tree to decline or severely of all or part of a tree. There's a few more. Article 16, Section 811, penalties of violation. There's administrative penalties, as I talked about before, the $10,000 fine or the tree's replacement value. And this is just Article 16 in summary. Trees are more than just beautiful additions to urban life. They are an essential component of the city's ecosystem and provide enormous environmental and social benefits. A permit is required to remove any street tree, significant tree, or landmark tree. It is illegal to injure a tree. Injuries can include excessive pruning and malicious acts like nailing objects to trees or negligent acts like vehicular accidents. The illegal removal of a tree requires replacement with equivalent inches in total diameter of the street tree or trees that were removed. It is the property owner's responsibility to know the law. Ignorance is not an excuse. Here are just a few best management practices um, for our tree pruning standards. Do not remove more than 25% of the tree canopy each year. Do not remove more than 25% of the foliage on a branch or limb each year. This will stress the tree and it may produce weakly attached branches the following year. This can kill or lead to decline. Do not cut back to a branch that is less than 1/3 or 1/2 the size of the main branch. Um, it is important to selectively remove branches throughout the tree, not just the lowest branches that you can reach. Removing the lowest branches when it is unnecessary is sometimes called limbing up. This can cause a tall, spindly tree to form, and it can also reduce trunk flare and girth of the tree. Lower branches help keep the vigor of the lower portion of the tree, and this is especially important in conifers. Severing all or parts of the tree and topping. Here are some illegal practices. Below you can see some pictures of topped trees. Tree topping, also called hat racking, heading, or rounding over, is the practice of cutting a terminal branch to a stump or to a lateral branch that is not large enough to assume the terminal role. In general, topping is not an acceptable way to reduce a tree's canopy. In certain situations, a professional arborist may use topping to remove hazardous branches and prolong the life of a mature tree. Topping street trees is illegal. Anyone who is tops a street tree is liable and will be fined. Um, Topping produces weakly attached rapid new growth as a tree tries to recover energy producing leaves as quickly as possible. You can see below, this is what they did to the ficus tree, and it's not a success story. Um, Here is the new growth, the spindly new growth that forms weakly attached um, branches. Eventually, this tree died. Also, topping can cause weakly attached rapid new growth. You can see here the tree was topped previously, and you can see the structure of the tree just kind of grew into itself, um, producing weakly attached limbs. Also, improper pruning can cause entry points for pathogens, as seen below. And then topping is not the same as pollarding. As you can see to the left, is the practice of pollarding, and on the right is a topped tree. Pollarding must be started when trees are young and can only be performed on certain species of trees. So this is for PG&E and high voltage lines. High voltage power line conflicts are the responsibility of PG&E's line clearance certified arborist. Um, CPUC General Order 95, Rule 38 requires that utilities maintain a minimum of 18 inches clearance between vegetation and high voltage conductors at all times. Um, Most of the time, the PG&E transformer, everything below the transformer is secondary distribution lines, which is a lower voltage, and it's designed to come into contact with any vegetation. It's anything above the transformer um, that is high voltage, and vegetation needs to be at least a minimum of 18 inches clearance in the city. Um, and this is Street Tree SF. Basically, in July of 2017, um, San Francisco took over the responsibility of all the street trees in the public right of way um, for maintenance of the tree and the surrounding sidewalk. Basically, there was a $19 million annual set aside in the tree's general fund for Street Tree SF, and in 2016, a census was completed, and basically we had 125,000 trees that needed to be taken care of. As you can see in the map, we completed the first cycle all in gray. Everything in the yellow, that lightish yellow, is planned for this year. And then next year in 2025 is all the green. So we're almost caught up with all the pruning all the trees in the city. And so yeah, it is a work in progress. We basically, since the start of Tree SF, I'd say a little bit more than 50% of the total tree maintenance needs have been addressed by contractors and city arborists. More than 64,000 trees have been pruned. This was last updated in August 2022, so pretty sure we're probably have more percentage completed. And then there's information and outreach. We have brochures, and we put door hangers before we come and prune the trees, just to let everyone know that um, there is pruning on the block. You can also go to our website and take a look and see when your tree is being pruned. So to start the hearing with the first order, number 208201 for 1929 Terrival Street. An appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal pruning of one street tree adjacent to 1929 Terrible Street. The fine levied for the illegal pruning is $6,800. So the tree in question is a New Zealand Christmas tree, as you can see. Here's a photo of the tree before the topping, and this is a photo afterwards. As you can see, 100% of the canopy has been removed. There's a closer picture up over here on the right-hand side. There you can see that there's a tear out, improper pruning techniques. I mean, I know they removed 100% of the canopy, but this tear out does not look good. It's pretty big, which again could cause weakly attached branches and entrance for pathogens. As you can see from the side-by-side photo, photo on the right is what the tree used to look like, and on the left is after the heading cuts, the topping cuts. So to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, we have fined the owner for the appraised value of the tree, which is $6,800. Basically, the tree it's a New Zealand Christmas tree, and it's pretty hardy, so it may come back. We think it will come back, even though all the foliage has been removed, but we'll have to monitor that. So that's it for that one.
Okay, we have Mr. or Atul Garg. Are you the appellant? Go ahead and unmute, and I'll lower your hand.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you're good,
Okay,
and I'll start the clock.
Thank you, Matt, and everyone. First of all, I'm sincerely apologizing for the unfortunate situation regarding the illegal pruning of a tree, for which I've been issued this fine. I humbly appeal to the San Francisco Urban Forestry Bureau to kindly consider waiving or reducing the fine, taking into account the unintentional nature, and there was no malice, and it was also not gross negligence. And also there was some personal hardships my family and I have faced. First and foremost, I want to bring to your attention the significant challenges we have encountered due to my father's illness and subsequent passing away, as well as our own battles with COVID-19. My father, who was in India, contracted COVID in January 2022, leading to hospitalization in ICU for an extended period. Following his release, he experienced complications and multiple surgeries. And then he passed away on January 10th, 2023. And I have attached in the letter the copy of hospitalization and death certificate for my father. And during this time, I made several trips to India to provide care and support for my father. And then upon my return, I also fell sick with COVID. And then in September of the same year, my wife was admitted to the hospital due to fainting and convulsions. These successive events not only took a toll on our physical and emotional well-being, but also financial strain. As retirees of age above 65, our primary source of income was the Math Edge tutoring business located at Taraval in that same building in San Francisco. However, due to the circumstances above, we were compelled to shut down the business. The loss of our sole means of financial support was further exacerbated with a challenging situation. In an effort to manage our circumstances, we decided to lease the aforementioned business space, and to assist the necessary maintenance, I engaged the services of a professional licensed San Francisco real estate agent named Karen Lum. Given
1
that I
minute.
was, yeah, go ahead.
1 minute.
Given that I was preoccupied with my father's illness and my own health, Ms. Lum kindly offered to hire an experienced individual to handle the true pruning on behalf. She told me that she has done this many times. She has a very reliable tree pruning person that does the work in San Francisco. Relying on her assurances, I agreed to proceed with the arrangement. Unfortunately, upon inspecting the work later, it became evident the tree had not been pruned correctly. We decided to work with another lease agent to lease the space. However, we have not yet been able to rent it out due to challenges with the small business are facing in San Francisco. I deeply regret any violation of the tree pruning regulations and assure you that it was unintentional and there was no malice and there was no gross negligence. I did what I think any reasonable person would do to accept that a real estate agent in San Francisco knows what they are doing, and she had assured me that she knows the right person who can prune the tree. I understand the importance of maintaining the urban forestry in our city and the significance of following the established guidelines. However, I kindly request your understanding and compassion, taking into consideration the exhausting circumstances we have endured during this period.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Time is up.
I apologize for the inconvenience and request the city to waive the fine or reduce it.
Okay. Sir.
And going back to one of the things that
time is up, sir.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Garg. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. We did receive all of your background information on the case, including your letter and medical records. So I appreciate that. We'll take those into consideration when making a determination. Is there anything that you wanted to add, Brian?
No, I think I'm okay for now for this one.
Now we'll open up for public comment. Please raise your hand if you have any comment to make by dialing *9 if you're on a cell phone. Are there any public comments, Clinton?
It doesn't look like there are any comments at this time.
Okay, if there are no other public comments, we'll now close the item and I will review the background documents and consider your testimony to make a recommendation to the director. We'll move on to order number 208202. Brian, may I have your presentation on this matter?
Yes, let me open that.
I think the appellant for this case missed the beginning of your presentation,
Okay.
going through some of the ordinance. So if you could repeat that, unfortunately, for their benefit, I think that would be helpful,
Okay.
at least as it relates to their case.
Okay. So before I went over basically your case, do not remove more than 25% of the canopy each year. This will stress the tree and it may produce weakly attached branches the following year. The illegal practice was topping the tree and removing 100% of the canopy. We don't allow topping trees. It's the practice of cutting a terminal branch to a stump or to a lateral branch that is not large enough to assume the terminal role. Topping is not an acceptable way to reduce a tree's canopy. In certain situations, professional arborists may use topping to remove hazardous branches and prolong the life of a mature tree. Topping city street trees is illegal, and, and will be fined for doing so. Here's some photos of topping the tree. It may look like the tree is coming back in this species, but just rapid new growth of trees, just trying to leaf out to get some sunlight and grow a little bit more. But eventually the tree will die. Here's another photo of the tree in rapid growth, just causing spindly, weakly attached branches. Basically, this tree was topped and then it died shortly after. And yeah, so topping is not the same as pollarding. You may see pollarded trees on California Street or in front of City Hall. But that is a practice that we started a long time ago when the tree was young, bringing back the branches to the knuckle of the tree, as you can see, and not removing the entire canopy as seen in this right-hand photo. Usually it's done on certain species. We mostly do it on sycamore trees, the ones that you see in front of City Hall and California Street and all along Market Street, but those aren't pollarded, but those are the same species that can be pollarded if done correctly at an early age. So yeah. So now on to order number 208202 for 2347 26th Ave. This is an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for the illegal pruning of one street tree adjacent to 2347 26th Ave. The fine levied for the illegal pruning is 2302, which is our normal in lieu fee. As you can see, here's a photo of the tree beforehand. Tristaniopsis laurina. It's a healthy tree. And then in the next photo taken in March of this year, you can see that 100% of the canopy has been removed. You can see here, yeah, everything has been removed. Basically, it's unlike, because it's a different species, we don't think the tree will make a recovery. This tree does not do well when removing 100% of the canopy, and so the tree will not recover. And so to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, we have issued a fine of $2,302. That's it. Oh, you're muted, Matt.
Now I'd like to ask the property owner for comment.
And if the property owner could identify themselves or raise their hand. Okay, great. Go ahead and unmute. And would we say, is it okay for us to say lamb? Okay, we can barely hear you. Go ahead and try. Can you hear us? Can we hear you? Oh. Having a hard time hearing you. I mean, I can faintly hear you.
Okay.
Oh, that's better. That's better.
Okay. Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And just let's go ahead and test that one more time, and then I'll go ahead and start the clock.
Hello. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Hello.
Okay, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, I know I'm doing wrong. I did wrong, but the owner next door, he's a two couple, very old couple. One is handicapped. The other one's just his wife. His wife take care of him. They keep complaining. The leaves, flying all over the floor. He been knocking my door like too many times. He asked me to do that, but I didn't know the law. Is like that. So I'm so sorry. So I talked to the couple. Talk to you guys. reduce the fine or some kind of that, So that's what I expect. So I never do that again because I didn't. Right now I know the law, so they keep the older couple is very nobody take care of them, So their kids, they live far away from them. That's why every time they need help, they knock my door, to do something for them, That's why I have my story.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello, we're here. We heard you. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
We also received your background information. I think it was an email which covered pretty much the same information. So thank you for that. Brian, is there anything that you'd like to add here?
No, I'm okay.
And then is there any comment from the public on this order number?
If you have any comment, please raise your hand. At this time, I do not see anybody for comment.
No, I don't have any comments.
Okay, if you have no other comments, Mr. Tu, then we'll move to the next item. Do you have any other comments? Okay.
Doesn't see any comments.
Okay, with no other comments, we'll move on to the next order number. Thank you for your description. The next order is 208203. Brian, would you like to present this one?
Yeah. Brian Ong, San Francisco Urban Forestry, order number 208203, 199 Valencia Street. This is an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for the illegal removal of one significant tree on private property within 10 feet of the public right-of-way at 199 Valencia Street. The fine levied for the illegal removal is $10,000. As you can see here, this is at 199 Valencia Street. This is the property at Zeitgeist. It's the bar, and you can see here there's a Monterey pine right here, and then here is a photo of inside of the fence line, and you can see the tree over on the right hand side that was illegally removed. Here are some photos of inside of where the tree stump was. There's some wood structures around the area, but you could see the measurements that the tree would have been within 10 feet of the public right-of-way. Here's a couple more photos of where the roots and the stump are located. Here's another photo of just the tree as it was. Basically, the public right-of-way ends where that fence line is, and then you measure 10 feet back. As long as the tree is a certain size, either 20 feet tall, 9 inches in diameter, or 15-foot spread, classifies it as a significant tree. And so basically, yeah, they removed the tree. There was no permit on file for tree removal, and no permit was issued to remove the tree. And then this is the requirements for illegal removal. Where an abutting property owner removed a street tree or trees without obtaining a permit, the department shall require that the property owner plant a replacement tree or trees with the total diameter 6 inches above ground that is equal to or greater than the total diameter of the street tree or trees that were removed without a permit. So the property owner did already submit a retroactive removal permit, and we estimate the tree to be around 12 to 15 inches in diameter based on photos and the width of the fence posts where the tree was located. So we will need to replace 12 to 15 inches of caliper or pay equivalent value in addition to the fine. This portion cannot be waived. So we kind of took a look, and there are maybe two spots in front of this, kind of by the bike racks, to plant 2 trees, large stature trees, since there's no There's no overhead wires or anything like that. No restrictions for a taller tree. And then I think one around the corner on DeBow Street. So yeah, to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, we have fined the owner for $10,000 for illegal removal. Oh, sorry, that's it.
Okay, so the appellant is Laura. Laura, you can already speak. Go ahead and unmute. And if you have materials you'd like to share, is that what you wanted to?
Yeah.
You do
if
have
I
materials you
can,
want to share?
I just wanted to show one image if that's
Okay,
possible.
great. Hold on one second. And okay, you should be able to share your screen now. And when you're ready to start, I'll start the clock. You'll need to unmute. Okay. Let me know when you're ready, Laura. I'll start the clock now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and I'm gonna start the clock.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to request an appeal for the $10,000 fine placed against our property for the removal of the tree. I'm Laura Burmeister. I'm a representative of the property owner. We greatly appreciate your time and consideration for the facts surrounding the tree's removal. We're open and willing to work with the department to rectify this, as we never intended to violate any laws or requirements. Thank you for allowing me to provide further context. In 2017, there was a proposal submitted to convert the one-story high oil change shop across the street into a 5-story residential building. As you'll see on the screen, this is a depiction of the impact of the shading onto our plot, which is highlighted in the red box there. In response to this, we submitted a request for discretionary review, and we participated in that process in front of the Planning Commission. We removed the tree based on the Planning Commission's recommendations. They provided this as a part of the proceeding. In response to the urban forestry letter that I received, I submitted this for your information. This application includes the shading study. Thus, we never really wanted to remove the tree, but felt no choice once the building was erected in 2021. As we filed a discretionary review, we informed the Planning Commission that this building was going to have significant adverse effects on our beer garden. The beer garden had been in operation since 1977. Zeitgeist is a historic legacy business in San Francisco. The 189 Valencia building, as proposed and ultimately built, created significant shading on our beer garden. We anticipated it would have adverse impacts to our business, as we observed a high correlation between our sales and sunlight. As a part of the discretionary review decision in the Planning Commission hearing in 2017, the 198 Valencia building was reduced by 9 feet in effective height. We at Zeitgeist were also asked to make adjustments to create more light within our space to resolve the issue. As a result, when the building was erected in 2021, we lost a significant amount of light, and we ultimately saw a sales drop that we anticipated. Thus, after already having struggled to stay alive during the pandemic, we needed to take action to address the light impacts onto our sales. At that time, we made a heavy-hearted decision to remove the pine tree. In 2021, we hired the professional arborist company Treesco to assess and remove the tree. We included the estimate and invoices from Treesco in our appeal request. We relied on this professional company to acquire the necessary permits on our behalf to remove the tree. We were not informed by them of the requirement to submit a permit for the tree's removal, despite requesting that they obtain the necessary permitting before proceeding. There was never any intent on our part to evade city regulations in this action. When we had the tree removed in 2021, we commenced discussions with Treesco around designing a new plan for the landscaping of the beer garden to replace the removed tree. If he's able, Christopher from Treesco will join to provide public comment. We are still working with them on our landscaping plan and would be happy to expedite its execution to rectify this issue. We appreciate your consideration of these facts to remove the fine from our business. We are still struggling to achieve profitability after the pandemic. I appreciate you considering these in your review, since we have not had a profitable year since 2019. We are willing to work to rectify this through implementing a re-landscaping plan.
Okay, thank you. And we did have a comment from Christopher, and Christopher, you are allowed to speak now. Just unmute yourself. And thank you to the other presenter. Christopher, go ahead and unmute yourself. We can hear you now. Christopher, go ahead and I'll start the clock. Well, we had you for a second. Is Josie, are you speaking as well? Or speaking for Christopher? Looks like we lost Christopher.
Yes.
Okay, hi Josie, are you speaking for Christopher?
No,
Okay.
I just raised my hand to speak maybe after him.
Okay, well, we lost him. So go ahead and I'm sorry, we have someone from Christopher's back. Let me try again.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone. It's the beauty of virtual. Christopher, go ahead and go when you're ready. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm just going to read the text that I sent to you. Anyway, in April 2021, it was a really rough time. Somehow communication broke down. I'm very aware of the significant tree ordinance. I've worked in San Francisco since 2008. I have a good reputation with the city. I would not want to jeopardize that. I've always been clear with my customers about permits. I do not remember what happened, but I do remember it was a very stressful time. My client, Zeitgeist, is very concerned about getting permits. So I'm very surprised this happened at all. Zeitgeist loves trees. We have already discussed replacement, but they wanted to wait and see the impact of the new high-rise from across the street and how badly it would block the sun to their historic courtyard. And also, finally, Monterey pines in the city are all doomed. Pine pitch canker and beetle attack will kill all of the trees in San Francisco. Because of that, Monterey pines may have short-lived benefits, but they will all become a liability. And the cost for removal and replacement is less than the fine that is being levied. So I really think that the fine should be removed from this situation and just ask them to do something else with the money. And I'm good, I think.
Okay, thank you. The next comment will come from Josie. Go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead and I'll start the clock.
All right, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to hear a testimony pertaining to the $10,000 fine posed in response to the removal of the Monterey pine tree. I am Josephine Howe. I am the managing director of Zeitgeist, and I started at Zeitgeist in 2021. I'm here to request that the fine be waived given the circumstances that Laura had relayed. Being the person responsible for all the financial statements, I can attest that Zeitgeist has not recuperated from the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. We have not had a profitable year since 2019 and are still trying to work very hard to stay alive as a business. I started in the midst of the pandemic operating period and also want to relay that it was an extremely difficult time to operate the business. At this time, the business was required to only offer outdoor services. We had to enforce the mask mandate and distancing requirements. We struggled to get the labor force to return back to work. All that being said, we were listed as one of the safest bars in San Francisco to visit during the pandemic in local news. We took our role very seriously in protecting our staff, our patrons, and the public. With the building erected across the beer garden and shading the beer garden, we felt very concerned about losing more money than we already had. Given the 2017 discretionary review hearing process, we needed to take steps to increase sunlight in the yard. We hired Trees Co. to remove the pine and also come up with an alternative tree planting plan for the site. We wanted to observe the sunlight impact before determining the final design. We were working with Christopher from Trees Co. to determine the design. We want to be native plant species and xeriscaped. We would welcome your input. Thank you for considering waiving this fine under these circumstances, and we appreciate your support in helping our local business recover.
Thank you, Josie. We also have Susan, I believe, who had her hand up. Go ahead, Susan.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in this forum to request that this fine be waived as well. I'm Susan Jodon. I am the property manager of 199 Valencia building and the adjacent lots. And upon receiving the notice from the Urban Forestry Department, I ensured that the permit and payment for the removal of the tree was completed retrospectively. The permit and payment was issued mid-May, as mentioned previously. And I can confirm that we have been working to figure out a new design for planting the beer garden vegetation. And I can confirm that we are open to planting street trees along DeBose and Valencia. We just ask that the sunlight access to the Zeitgeist Beer Garden is considered in the selection of both the species and location. As a landlord, we have a very long-standing relationship with Zeitgeist and would absolutely hate to lose them as our tenant due to them not making it through this very tough financial period. We really appreciate your consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. Does anyone else have any comment? Please raise your hand.
Are there other
Okay.
comments, Clinton?
Okay, Matt, it doesn't look like there are any other comments at this time.
Okay, I have a couple questions. In the email to Susan Nawberry, and today, I think, Laura, you mentioned that the planning department made a recommendation to remove the pine tree during the discretionary review application. So I was wondering if you could go into that a little bit more. How did they provide the recommendation? And was it written or was it just an oral recommendation?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes. So the discretionary review hearing proceeded as they normally do. So for context, we submitted our application. We then had, I believe, 3 hearings in total, presenting testimony and having decision made to take discretionary review. So that I'm not sure of your familiarity, but just generally, we provided a specific recommendation for them to create a transparent parapet and to reduce the ground floor by 5 feet to create an effective reduction of 9 feet in full effective height. That would give us extra sunlight hours to the beer garden. As a verbal comment, as a part of that proceeding, which is recorded, one of the commissioners stated to us in response to taking that hearing that we also needed to take action to increase the sunlight in our backyard. It was stated openly, but that was the request made for us. For us, it was clear that the location of this particular pine tree was going to inhibit us from being able to have any sort of daylight hours because of the extent of its canopy into our beer garden.
Thank you. I also noticed in the photographs that there's a eucalyptus tree in the backyard there. Is that
Right.
still there?
So we had 2 eucalyptus trees that were not within the, now that I'm aware of this statute, it was not within the distance required from the fence. We removed those 2 trees because a eucalyptus branch had fallen onto one of the beer tables and scared our customers. We had arborists review it. I can't recall at this time if it was Trees Co. or another arborist we worked at the time. But we had those professionally removed as well from a professional arborist because of the threat to patrons. It was also determined that they were not in good health. As stated, our intent is not to leave it as a barren lot. It was rather to figure out how to select the right species of trees to replant and protect the sunlight need as well.
Got it. Brian, there's been talk about a new landscape plan for the beer garden and also street trees, both on Valencia and DuBose. How would that affect this current hearing order?
I'm not exactly sure how it would affect the fine, if it were to reduce it or change it in any way in order to plant those trees. But I just know that there is room for at least 3 trees, 2 large stature trees on Valencia Street. So even if they do remove the tree, they would still have to replace it with as many inches in diameter to get as close to the 12 to 15 inches above 6 inches grade.
Okay. And then are you, Laura, obviously the landscaping of the beer garden is kind of on your dime. But are you proposing that the street trees along Valencia or Dubose would be paid for by you as well?
So I represent the ownership. I can't state something without preparing and presenting to
No, I
them, but
understand.
generally speaking, we are very willing to cooperate with the city and come up with a plan that meets everyone's objectives. And if the fine were to be removed, we would be willing to put that money towards the project. But we would like, given the specifics of this condition, to address kind of how to best solve the issue that meets kind of the need to replace it. Again, I don't have a problem putting a tree of that size into the beer garden. We would just place it in a different spot so that it doesn't affect the western sun exposure.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, Clinton, I think we're good.
Okay, I don't see anybody's hand raised. If I'll just give one more add on to Matt. If anybody has any additional comments, this hearing will be posted on our website. And without that, I will stop recording and we will gavel down. Go ahead and gavel down, Matt, if you'd like.
How do I do that?
Just say meeting adjourned. Or
Meeting
it's over.
adjourned.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, thanks.